All right, so now let's get into the actual understanding of high probability time. So the formula was, high probability time times high probability price, which encompasses manipulation and market structure shift to give you a high probability trade. So going into high probability time, it's pretty much an understanding as to which time zones that you need to be focused on, or which time zone to select out of the ones available in order for you to focus on, because these are time zones that have higher volatility, and there's more volume in the market in order for it to actually give you that market structure shift, give you that formula output, and allow you to take advantage of the charts in a way where it pretty much goes your direction. So high probability time is what I tend to call hot zones. So if we go into high probability time, define a point in which momentum is high in the market, allowing for clean movement and explosive price delivery. When the system, quote unquote, smart money, quote unquote, institutions, quote unquote, and retail traders, which are the bulk of the Forex traders now, when these individuals are all participating in the market at the same time, volume and momentum increases. These are considered hot zones. So I call these hot zones. I call these hot zones, and these are the zones that you should be focused on trading. Anything outside of these zones will render losses, and I don't think you want that, because you want the highest probability of winning trades as possible. These are the periods we should be focused on executing trades. Anything outside of these periods will result in lower probability trades, as price will be more geared towards consolidated and accumulating orders. So our goal is to enter while price manipulates and hold while price distributes. That's the goal. To enter while price manipulates and hold while price distributes. So if you have your notepad and your pen, write that down. To enter while price manipulates and hold while price distribute. The reason being is manipulation is pretty much the start of a push for a certain direction. And if you can enter at the start of the push, you can take advantage of the entire extension. We want to only execute orders when price is delivering, and in some cases prior to the actual delivery, i.e., so example, early entries. When you start seeing price making these adjustments, you can jump in and do your thing, right? Utilizing the time frame correlation. Have to adjust the screen. So depending on which method is utilized, we have swing trading, intraday trading, sessions trading, scalping, etc. Periods may vary. So these hot zones happen all the time. So if you're swing trading, there'll be hot zones. The hot zones for swing trading will be a specific day or a specific day range. Intraday trading will be a specific, I would say more so, it could be a specific time within the day. In sessions is pretty much a specific session within a day. So that's New York, London, etc. And then you have scalping, which you can utilize the sessions within a day in order to scalp up and down. Scalping trades happen every time, whether it's a reversal or an actual directional push. You can scalp, but when it comes down to it, it's best to scalp within a high probability time hot zone in order for you to render the best results. Right? So the time hot zones, write this down. We have London session, scalping intraday. London or scalping session intraday, right? So I wouldn't recommend, this is not when you're swing trading. This is when you're session trading, scalping, and intraday trading. So based on my observation and based on my experience, London session, you should only be focused on 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. You can take it on further than that if you want to, but within 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. you'll see a nice setup. Usually within 3 a.m. to around 3:45, 4 o'clock, you see a nice setup with the manipulation taking place. And keep in mind, this is Eastern time zone, so this is early in the morning. This is after the market actually opened. Asian session is the opening of the market, where it actually shows the highs and lows that can be breached. And London session is usually when manipulation can take place. And this is why London session is probably the best session to trade, because there's always going to be some form of manipulation. And London session is the manipulation period when, if you're trading a daily time frame, if you're trying to catch manipulation, it'll happen around London into New York. So London session is probably the most easiest session to trade because there's not so many hands in the market. So there's not as much up and down, as much wicked, it's not as much what they call it, opening time manipulation and confusion. So you don't have New York hands in there, you don't have New York traders in there, you only have London traders and Asian session traders, which are pretty much slow. So London session 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. Eastern time. New York session, scalp it intraday. This is actual, you could session play it, scalp it, or intraday trade it. 9 a.m. Eastern time to 12 p.m. Eastern time. This is pretty much the best times to execute, unless you can catch it before 9 a.m. So the pre-time you could actually look at all this is around, I say 8 o'clock, 8 a.m. You'll see some kind of manipulation forming, or a high or low forming. You use like the 8 a.m. time frame, the same as you'll use the end of, not the end, but the blend of Asian session time frame around 2:40, 2:30, 2:40-ish, in order for you just to analyze the market. So 8 a.m. you can analyze the market, look at the highs and the lows. When 9 a.m. start, you just look for that manipulation time frame around 9:30 when the market open. That's usually when the manipulation takes place, or even before that. So before that, if you catch a manipulation before that, 9:30 is just going to confirm that manipulation to distribute that direction. Usually that's what it does, if there's no news. So you can, and this is another thing with New York session, you could experience a lot of news plays, and that can end up, emotionally having you act a certain way. So if you're not that person who's emotionally tough, or if you don't trade news, I wouldn't trade this session, or I'll wait until the close session of New York, right? So for example, there's news that tends to happen at 8 a.m. in the morning Eastern time, and then there's news that tends to happen at around 10 a.m. In the morning Eastern time as well. News also takes place at around 2 p.m. at sometimes, which is around the close session of New York. So this London session 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. Eastern time. New York session 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern time. Now the late New York session, I have to change this. The late New York session, I would say 1 p.m. 1 p.m. Eastern time to close. Because this is when everyone, after Wall Street come back from lunch, right? This is when the market pretty much dies down. The market also dies down at around 11 a.m., 10 a.m., providing there's no news. 11 a.m., 10 a.m. Eastern time, where you can catch a nice flow instead of the actual opening of New York session. Now the late New York session, around 1:30 p.m., you should be able to get in and look at it to see exactly the direction it's going, and get a nice scalp intraday play. And you can run that up until the end of day session. The weekly hot zones, those are the ones if swing trading. This is what I always teach and what I've always taught in the group. Pretty much from Sunday to Friday, you pretty much have a cycle similar to London session, New York session, late New York session, Asian session. The weekly time zone, Sunday is pretty much the consolidation. Monday is ending up the consolidation. Tuesday is getting into the manipulation, which rolls into Wednesday, and then you get the distribution. You get the distribution at the end of week, which is around Thursday, Friday. So Tuesday and Wednesday are pretty much the best days to look for entries for overall movement, because if you take a look at the weekly time frame, you start seeing how candlesticks are forming in relation to the daily time frame down to the 4-hour time frame. The weekly time frame will show you as it's forming, because as I always say, no candlestick is valid until it wicks after it opens. So every candlestick have to have a wick. That wick, this is going into candlestick alchemy, the next course. That wick, it tends to be the retracement and the manipulation needed in order for the candlestick to fully form. And on a lower time frame, in terms of time frame correlation, if you see a candlestick open on the weekly and then it wicks a certain direction on that weekly, that certain direction, if you go down to the 4-hour daily time frame, you realize that that wick is nothing more than a manipulation for the weekly time frame to actually go the opposite direction, which is actual bias. And the wick usually happens around, the transition from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It happens around Monday, Tuesday to Wednesday. You'll see that, and then the candlestick will actually start forming, going this correct direction Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday usually kind of retraces back. Hold on. So then news trading, that's primarily if you trade news. There's always going to be some kind of directional bias in news trading before news actually occur. And news, like I always say, is always a front. In terms of the market, we can kind of see what's going on before news take place, if you really pay attention. But I leave the news trading to the news killer, as he's almost perfected and mastered trading news better than anyone I've ever seen. So I leave that to the news killer. So I'll let him do his thing in his course in regards to news trading. And I would advise that you follow whatever he's saying in terms of news trading if you want to trade news. So to get into Asian session, I just want to kind of get into Asian session so you can see why it's not included. Asian session is not included as a hot zone, as Asian session is considered an accumulation consolidation period within a daily price delivery cycle. As a result, Asian session tends to be slow as volume is low. Unless trading news within the session, it should only be used to measure the start of a new trading day cycle. Accumulation, the price delivery cycle is pretty much accumulation, manipulation, distribution. So Asian session is to me is nothing more than it's nothing more than, I say, like the start of a new day, a new cycle. And I'll get into the cycles in a future video. But for right now, it's always a start of a new cycle. We don't care for Asian session unless we use it in order to realize the highs and lows of that session, to see which one is going to be breached for manipulation. Because it just, within that time frame, it's pretty slow unless there's something going on, like AJ or RJPY. It's something going on with Aussie. Anything going on with Aussie or New Zealand and stuff like that. You won't see any movement unless something is going on with them, or there's some kind of news going on. So I'll stay away from Asian session, as you will get confused and you end up losing money. So with that being said, let's move on to the next video. I guess I'll go into the London session. I'll do a few examples on these sessions so you can understand what it means in terms of hot zones. In terms of hot zones, what it pretty much means. All right.